Hi, this is Seagull here. I'm just an occasional machinist, but I recently satisfied a long-held desire to have a real mill vise for my RF30 mill drill. I grabbed a special deal on a Vertex 5-inch mill vise. However, following a recent shoulder injury, lifting the 25 kg, 55-pound device is something of a risk. I thought about some sort of crane or hoist, but a lack of overhead clearance in my basement workshop precluded this option. I had lying around a small section of plywood laminate tabletop, and I tried testing it as a bridge from the storage shelf to the end of the mill table. It sort of worked, but needed anchoring in place while I slid the vise across. I then had a eureka moment and thought, what about a Lazy Susan? So I bought a small, too small as it turned out, Lazy Susan bearing for 15 bucks. And so I installed it on the underside of the piece of tabletop. Now normally you attach the lower section of the bearing to the base of the Lazy Susan and then the upper section of the swivelling turntable through access holes drilled in the base. They have to be offset about 45 degrees. In my case, the base was the fixed shelf on the wall, and it was further complicated by a bearer which blocked one of the 4 holes. Lining up the screws through these holes was the hardest part of the whole project, but using square drive socket head Robertson screws allowed me to probe around a little on the end of a screwdriver and eventually secure the bearing lower plate to the shelf itself. I was now able to test the swivelling action for real. About this time I remembered that my 8-inch rotary table was even heavier at 30 kg, 66 pounds, than the vise, and with a bit of fiddling I might be able to include the storage and transport for that as well. That'd be a bonus. This needed a diagonal cut across the swivelling shelf and the installation of a thicker triangular shelf in the far corner of the original shelf on the wall to store the rotary table when not in use, so that as to clear the deck for the mill vise. Well, it's a lot easier than struggling to heft and maneuver these items for this old geriatric. A bigger bearing would have been better, but the underslung extension allows me to take some of the load off the bearing, and parking it on the collar of the handwheel steadies up the whole thing. I have ordered a transfer bearing to be installed to the left of the Lazy Susan to take some of the load when moving the rotary table, but it works pretty well as it is. Thanks for watching. Mm-hmm.